Okay.
Hello, and welcome to Worth Fighting For. My name is Pat Harris, and I'm coming to you from the dunes of the Carolina beaches. I started Worth Fighting for a very definite reason. Like most people, when the election came, I was disturbed by the outcome and seriously considered leaving the country. We went so far as to look at places in England, potentially to move there, because I just didn't want to wake up every morning and turn on the television and have to see Trump giving his spiel. Thought it'd just be easier to leave. Then I happened to pick up a book. It was kind of a book about the West Wing and the TV show The West Wing and the history. And I was reading through it, and there was a little story in there that Martin Sheen, the actor who played the president, told. And the story goes like this. A man dies, he goes to the pearly gates and is met by St. Peter. And St. Peter asks him, says, "Do you have any scars, sir?" The man proudly rolls up his sleeves and his pants leg, opens up his shirt and says, "No, St. Peter, as you can see, I have no scars." To which St. Peter replies, "Was there nothing worth fighting for?" That had quite an effect on me, because I realized we do have something worth fighting for, and it's this country. So I've started Worth Fighting For as a series of videos to talk about different issues and different things that I feel very strongly about, because I do think this country is worth fighting for. I also read in the book on the West Wing, it was interesting because the writer, Aaron Sorkin, the creator of the West Wing, stated that he's been asked all the time about the West Wing being some liberal fantasy and his view of how the presidency works. And he replied that it's entertainment. It's a fantasy that he created for people to enjoy. And I thought about that. I thought, the President Bartlet in the fictional TV show, he's intelligent, he's empathetic, he's well-spoken, he cares about people. And it's fascinating to me that that's now fiction. It's seen as fiction. That should be the very lowest level of things we expect from the president. But now we have to look at that and say, getting a President Bartlet or somebody who has those traits is actually some sort of fantasy. I see a lot of the commentators talking about the Democrats and what the Democrats have to do to get elected. It's the wrong question. We need to quit talking about what we're going to do to get elected and talk about who we are, because we have a serious problem with our identity. We have to go back to what the Democratic Party was when it was at its heyday and when we were making people's lives better. And we need to go and look at what is it exactly that the Democratic Party stands for. And I think of three things off the bat. I think of number one, empathy. This is the party that supposedly cares and cares about people and cares about what's going on in people's lives. I take, for example, I think when I watched this last election, what I was just so turned off by in terms of the Democratic response was the topic of immigration. Obviously, no one, and it's so stupid to even talk about that anyone's in favor of open borders. No one's in favor of open borders. We all want people to go through the normal procedure to be checked out. There's no one in favor of open borders. But what that resulted in is an attack on immigrants. And the Democratic Party, and Kamala Harris in particular, fought that by saying, well, we'll be just as tough or even tougher on immigration. This is the party of empathy. The answer should have been, she should have stood there in the debate and said, I am sick and tired of you picking on immigrants in this country. This country was built by immigrants. This country, your father, my father, our grandfathers, we succeeded because of immigrants helping this country. The immigrants in this country, not only do we talk about them all the time in terms of doing farming and jobs that Americans don't want to do, working in factories, gardening, those kind of things. We talk about that. But immigrants aren't just those jobs. Immigrants are also people who go on to become doctors and lawyers and go on to be politicians and actually do things for the good of this country. We ought to be praising immigration. We ought to be out there being the party, the Democratic Party of, by God, we love immigrants and we know who built this country. Right now in this country, we talk about a housing shortage. Well, guess what? The average age of an American in the construction industry is the mid-50s. Mid-50s. There aren't young Americans coming up in the construction business. There's very few of them. The construction business is largely immigrants, and many of them are undocumented. A huge portion of them are undocumented. You think you're going to build houses in this country? How are you going to do it? You're going to do it with Americans? Sorry, they're not going into construction. They're not going to sit out in the hot sun and build a house and drywall. They're just not going to do it. So we need to go back to being the party of empathy, the party that says, yes, we love immigrants, we love these people, and instead of talking about they're eating dogs, they're eating cats, they're horrible people, she should have looked at Trump and said, I am sick to death of you demonizing immigrants. I'm sick of it. These are good, decent people. Stop it. But that's not the response we got. We get the response of, well, we'll be just as tough. Doesn't work. Second thing the Democratic Party needs to look at as itself is we are the party of government. And that's now become an absolute swear word. We have allowed them to literally take government and demonize it to such an extent that even people like Bernie Sanders, progressives, they won't even say government is good. And that's what we need to be saying. We need to, excuse me for borrowing from Gordon Gekko, but we need to be saying government, for lack of a better word, is good. Government does wonderful things for people in this country. Government is the reason we have Medicare and Medicaid. Government is why we have Social Security. Government's why we have civil rights, why we have food protections. Government is the one who gives us fire protection, police protection. We need to quit demonizing government, and I'm going to do an entire video on how that occurred, but we need to stop demonizing government and realizing that, like in other countries, government is looked at as a positive. Yes, you pay taxes to it, and in some cases a lot of taxes, but if those taxes go to what they should go to, which is a whole nother story, they can help people and they do the right things. We have infrastructure in this country, in the last 4 years that's been built up because of government. We need to quit demonizing it, and instead of saying, no, we don't want to talk about government. You think about all the programs the Democrats talk they want, Medicare for all, daycare, student loan forgiveness, all these kind of things we talk about we want. We're not going to get a single one of them until we change the narrative. We get people to believe that government actually can accomplish things and will accomplish things. Until we do that, you're never going to get any of those things because you got to change the narrative. Third thing, you hear us talk about the Democrat Party as the party of the working people. We haven't been the party of the working people since the 1990s. We sold out. We kept losing elections and we sold out. And we went to Wall Street to get the money and to get the financing. And now you see pretty much the vast majority of candidates the Democratic Party recruits, they go looking for people with money, people who can finance their own campaigns. We go looking for doctors and lawyers and investment bankers and everybody else. Of course we're going to be seen as not being the party of the working people anymore, because we're not. If you want to solve this problem, I tell you what the Democratic Party needs to do. You need to take, in the next election, coming up in 2026, the midterms, you need to go to about 25 to 50 districts, congressional districts. You need to find nurses. You need to find firefighters. You need to find football coaches. You need to find bartenders. You need to find people who are working people. And right now they say, oh, we'll go get some of those to run. No, that's not good enough. It's not good enough to go recruit a nurse and say, please run for office because we like your background. You got to finance them. You got to give them the money. The Democratic Party, instead of spending all this money on stupid commercials and things that don't work, they need to be financing campaigns for working people. You need to give that nurse $2 million to run her campaign. That's when you'll get nurses. That's when you'll get laborers. That's when you'll get firefighters to run. You'll get people if they don't look at the office and say it's just not attainable. That's how you solve the problem and how you get back to having working people support and be the basis of the Democratic Party. I'll be doing these videos occasionally. I hope you enjoy them. But I do say, as the title suggests, this is worth fighting for. Thank you.